Hello my friends. So today in the Metal Shop Garage we are working on the Jeep, and today we're going to change out the throttle body. If you've driven one of these 4 liters, you know, YJ, TJ, or even CJ earlier, whatever, you know that these things are slow. Get a downshift to 4th and 3rd when climbing hills, and they're severely underpowered. So I'd like to make a couple of upgrades other than the ones I already have to give myself a little more power. Obviously we got the K&N cold air filter, I got the live wires, performance tune, you know, E3 spark plugs, better performance plug wires, you know, the Screaming Demon coil, all that. But I found, you know, some stuff online about the throttle body. Now they make BBK makes a nice 62mm throttle body, but they're about 280 bucks. It's a little pricey. It's funny, that must be a supply and demand thing, because for the Mustang you can get throttle bodies in all different sizes and they're just dirt cheap, but there's just so many of them. So I guess, you know, performance and the Jeep like this, it's not really that prevalent. So BBK makes a nice 62mm throttle body, about 280 bucks. I didn't really want to spend that much. They make bigger ones, and it's funny because a company that you wouldn't think of as normally producing throttle bodies, but it's Painless Performance. They make a 62mm throttle body. The BBK is a 62, whereas the stock is a 56, just for reference. Painless makes a 62, and they also make a 68. Now the 68mm throttle body, that's huge, and it's about $500. Just for sake of reference, my Mustang, which makes 450 rear wheel horsepower, now that's legit, uses a BBK 65mm throttle body, and it's more than enough. So 68 millimeter throttle body for the 4 liter is really, it's overkill. Unless you've got a stroker or forced induction, spending $500 on a 68mm throttle body, it's too big. And this is one of those situations where bigger is not necessarily better. And the best analogy that I can use is when you drink from a straw. You know, the straw is, you know, it's a 1/4 of an inch, it's smaller than that. If you say a throttle body that is too big on a vehicle, it's like, imagine if you were trying to drink and a straw was a 1-inch diameter, how hard that would be, how much force of suction that you would have to use in order to move that liquid. That's the best analogy with having a throttle body that is too big. So anyway, let's give a pause. We'll go over to the workbench and see what I ended up picking up. So there you can see that I did end up going with the BBK throttle body, the 62mm throttle body. And what I did was I found a used one online at Brothers Performance in Arizona. Now I've bought a bunch of stuff from Brothers Performance before. They make a lot of stuff for the Mustang. I bought the drive shaft safety loop and some, you know, bare wheel spacers, so on. Anyway, they had a used one. They said they just bolted it up and took it off, didn't end up using it. 150 bucks. Sold. I bought it, and then to my surprise, I get a package from BBK Performance, and I'm going to give huge kudos, huge shout out to Brothers Performance, because obviously what happened was they didn't have the used one available anymore, but it was still advertised on their website. They purchased a brand spanking new throttle body from BBK, had it drop shipped to me, and only charged me the 150 bucks. That is outstanding service right there. They could have just as easily said, sorry, it's no longer in stock, our mistake, refunded my money, and now I got to go pay the 280. They didn't. They drop shipped me a brand new one, so I got a $290 throttle body for the 150 bucks. Brothers Performance, awesome. So let's get this thing out and have a look. Alright, so comes with new bolts, Allen headed bolts. I assume there's a reason for that, probably because they have a small head. And it comes with a Torx bit. Okay, I'm sure the instructions will explain why I'm needing all this stuff. MAS 1724 master assembly, so 724 is their part number. Let's see if I can compare this to the stock throttle body and see what we are going to have to reuse, because I assume it's not going to be 100% complete. Now that is a nice looking piece. So we're going to have to use the sensors off of the Jeep. That's why it comes with that Torx bit. So yeah, there's for the throttle position sensor, and I'm not sure what goes over there. But yeah, this is a nice, really nice looking piece. So give a quick pause, and we will go over to the Jeep and see what we're working with over there. Alright, well, a quick little aside, I did open this up. Nice gaskets, I showed you that, and the bolts. And there's just a card in here if you need help to go online. So it doesn't actually come with instructions. Need help, no problem. They got a tech line. Well, they're saving paper, I guess, but I'm not really a big fan of that. I'd prefer some paper instructions. Oh well. So stand by. Alright, so over here at the Jeep, I found, you know, obviously we're going to take the filter charge tube off. That's 15/16 bolts. I tried these both because they are kind of nasty and corroded, and I can loosen them both up, and we'll loosen that up and get that out of the way first. Alright, so we got the rubber coupling off, and I just took these vacuum hoses off. There's one here and there's one on the other side that really hold this thing in place just to get out of the way. Now, there's a clamp up here. I'm not going to take that off. I'm going to be, you know, lazy. This swings out of the way enough so I can get at everything else. So there's a couple of plugs on the back right there, and there's another one back there. Not sure if you can quite see that have to be unplugged. And I got both of those off. Then we got 4 bolts on the throttle body, and we have the throttle cable, which is just a spring-loaded type of deal. I'm going to pop that off with panel tool, and it should pop right off. There, no problem. That pops right off. It's just a spring-loaded little clip there at the end of your throttle cable, and you can hear it moving the gas pedal around. So I'm going to take off those 4 bolts. I got the modules unplugged in the back. We'll get this assembly removed and over to the workbench. Alright, so here we are on the bench, and you can see that this entire assembly here has to come off. It's been painted red, and the paint is not lasting, and look at that, that's just crap. The throttle position sensor has to come off as well, and that's just the sensor. But remember how I said that they included a Torx bit, and I wasn't sure what that was for? Well, it's funny how things work. Just this morning, I was looking at picking up a set of 3/8" Torx bits to throw in the Jeep, to have tools with me for out on the trail. And they had what was called tamper-proof, and I didn't even know what that was, so I read up on it a little bit, and certain Torx bolts have this little, I don't know if you can see that, in the center of the Torx bit, there's like a little post. And it's so that, no, you can't tamper with them. So there has to be a hole in the end of your Torx bit. And I'm like, crap, I go and check all my Torx bits, I don't have any, and duh. The one they include in the kit is a tamper-proof bit with the little hole in the end, and it's just for this purpose. Now hopefully I'll be able to get all of these assemblies off. Now it looks like this one's already been monkeyed with because there's a different bolt in it. Yeah, when they had to paint this thing. That was performance. That was their performance ad when they did the restoration of the Jeep, you know, was to paint this thing and make it look cool. Yeah. So let's see if I can't get these pieces off. Wish me luck. Alright, so I've run into our first issue. The throttle position sensor came off, no problem, but when I went to bolt it on, it was causing a very sticky throttle, actually holding it open, and just horrible. And what I found was, and I'm not sure if the camera is going to pick this up, the difference is, if you look at how far the blade sticks out here on the stock throttle body versus how far this little blade sticks out on the aftermarket throttle body, there's the issue. It sticks out, it's quite a bit bigger. And what it's doing is when you tighten up the throttle position sensor, it's bottoming out in the back of the sensor and causing an issue. So great. So much for a bolt-on. I am going to have to I guess, I don't know what I'm going to do there. Grind that down. I think I'll use my good old sanding disc on the Dremel and take a little bit of that off. It's not going to hurt anything. It's just sticking out too far. So I'm going to take some off and we'll go from there. So much for an easy bolt-on installation. Nice job, BBK. So, Brothers Performance, awesome for sending me the throttle body at brand new at a used price. BBK, so far no instructions, and this blade sticks out too far. So, yeah. Alright, so success. I took the Dremel, a little bit of a sanding drum, and I just went after that little blade there. And just so you know, usually it's, Hack Job Incorporated here at the metal shop, but I did take a set of calipers here and use the plunge measuring tool here at the end to measure the distance, just to make sure that I had enough ground off so that the throttle body, now this is seated, you could tell it's seated much nicer once I ground that thing down just a little bit where it wouldn't seat before. And it does move freely. Hard to do with one hand, but it does move freely now. So we did get that, and I must be getting smart because I got all of these tamper-proof Torx bolts. I made sure that I could get all of those loose before I bothered grinding on this, because I'm like, if these are all painted and rusted and seized, what is the point? One other thing that I did notice is that there is a vacuum provision here where there is none on the stock throttle body. That is going to have to be plugged. I don't need that. I'm not sure what that's for. But thankfully I do have a bunch of, I have a little flat case with vacuum fittings so that I can plug that up. So let's continue. Alright, so it turns out that all I have are vacuum T connections, no caps. So this is far from ideal, this rubber cork type stopper, but it will be fine just to get me back on the road. This faces the driver's side fender of the Jeep, so I can pop this right off and pop a proper cap on there. But sorry, get that red flaky paint everywhere. I'm gonna have to make sure to really good and clean this out before I install it. We've run into another issue. This, I assume this is some kind of exhaust gas recirculator, something like that. And do you see this little tab that it has right here sticking up? Well, that prevents it from being mounted to the new throttle body. This is much bigger. This plate is bigger. This won't allow it to sit flush, and there's a gasket. This needs to be a good air sealed connection. And over here on the stock throttle body, there's like there's another tab here, and this one sits right on top of it. I assume for in the assembly process or whatever, just to help line it up. But if I want to use this, I've got to grind off. I have to grind this flush. I may just break out the Dremel again, but this time I think I'm going to use a metal cutting little whiz wheel to cut that off and get it out of the way. So, alright, away we go. Bolt on, sure. Alright, so remind me where we are. Okay, right. So I ground that little tab off. I used the little whiz cutting wheel. This is just cast piece. It zipped right off there, and then I just got it with the good old sanding drum just to make sure there was enough clearance. I actually reused the gasket here. It was a nice kind of a plastic type of gasket. Honestly, it fit better, and it had the holes were the right size for the bolts. This gasket that was included in the kit didn't fit. I could have enlarged the holes, whatever. It was stupid. This gasket here, I had to cut as well. Had a big piece that went over here, and this is the throttle stop here that's held in place with blue Loctite, and I had to cut off a little piece of it. Where's that little piece I just cut off? I guess it went flying. No, here it is. I had to cut that off, and this is probably a symptom of this fitting a bunch of Jeeps, I suppose. I don't know. I'm not going to use their screws. I'm going to reuse the factory ones. They fit fine. I can't see how there's going to be any fitment issues here. They have a they have a built-in captured washer. I just prefer the factory hardware, whenever possible. So I'm going to drop this on with the 4 bolts, and hopefully that's the last bit of mod that I'm going to have to do to this bolt-in piece. You know, we shall see. So curiously, before putting this on, I wanted to measure them, and the BBK piece does show, hard to do with one hand, does show 62 millimeters on the caliper. Okay, here, let me see if I can't switch hands and show you that. So it does show, my finger right in the way, 62 millimeters. I measured the stock piece, and I was very surprised to see that it measures 60, not quite 61 millimeters. I'm like, what gives? I mean, this is supposed to be 56 for a stalker and 62 for the BBK piece. And then I looked in here, and you can see the tool marks here. They took this off and painted it, but they did, they kind of ported this a little bit. They went at this with a, with a drum sander and took out, normally he's neck down, and it looks like they sanded this off. So I'm probably not going to notice a whole bunch of performance. This one had already been monkeyed with. Great. Outstanding. Stand by. Alright, so got the nice new shiny throttle body installed. All my connections have been remade. Honestly, the hardest one was getting this K&N filter pipe to go back in there. Bolted in nicely, used the factory bolts like I said. Unfortunately, as I stated, I don't think I'm going to notice a whole lot of performance gains because this one was already ported. Oh well, kept me busy for 2 hours on a Sunday afternoon and gave me a nice video on a project, a nice how-to project for guys who do want to install a BBK 62mm throttle body on their 4-liter Jeep. So, just the proof is in the pudding here. Let's start this thing up. No clutch cancel switch here need to worry about. I already checked. We're not in gear. Fires right up. Pay no attention to the belt noise. Definitely got a squeaky belt going on here. Success. Result. Will I feel any difference in the seat of the pants meter? Seat of the pants O-meter? Probably not. Anyway, my friends, I'd like to thank you for watching. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. One good automotive related content video at least 8 months out of the year per week. I greatly appreciate your support, and I do intend to upgrade my phone to an iPhone 8 and start shooting videos with the 8, so you will see the quality get better, and I am getting better at editing, I hope. So as always, my friends, thank you for watching, and I appreciate your support. Take care. Cool.